Welcome to the Lowdown Podcast, the show where we dive deep into the topics that directly impact the evolving originator. I'm your host, Connor Bartley. Bam! And joining me today is someone who has defied the odds, growing their business year over year in both 2023 and 2024. Devoted husband and father of three. Also, he's an accomplished T-ball and flag football coach. Justin Padron. Welcome to the Lowdown.
What an intro. What's up, man?
Hey, awesome to have you here, Justin. I really appreciate you stopping by for a visit. I know you're going to share a ton of value with the Lowdown listeners today. And we've known each other actually for a few years, and it's just been a pleasure getting to know you and learning more about how you approach your business and even some of the things that are just going on in your life. And I've always appreciated your dedication to staying connected with past clients and continuing to deliver value beyond the initial transaction. So that's something I'd love to dive into you with a little bit today, because I really think the listeners would get a ton of value from what you're doing. But before we jump into that, let's give our listeners some context. Who is the man behind the name? Like, who is Justin Padron? Tell us a little bit about it.
Man, passionate about finance, passionate about real estate. Perfect industry for me is being a branch leader, loan originator. I love sports, fantasy football. I'm actually number one in all three of my leagues right now. I don't know how many people say that. Crushing fantasy this year. A lot of fun with that. A lot of my buddies, we've been in the same league for 11, 12 years. So very competitive. All those dudes were talking smack this morning. Had a big game last night and came out with another victory. So,
nice.
Man, big time family guy. Love to be involved with my kids and my wife and do things with them. I've got a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. My 6 and 4-year-old are active in sports. My 2-year-old little girl, she's not yet, but she very soon will be. She's probably the toughest of the bunch, being the little one trying to keep up with the two brothers. A lot of fun keeping up with her and watching her evolve. But man, outside of that, I work a lot. I spend time with my family. And man, I get to hang with my friends every now and then. Love to go play golf, and I'm super pumped to be here with you and talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about today.
Awesome, man. Well, one thing I want to add to that is I've learned that you're also a fellow San Antonio Spurs fan.
I was about to say, I noticed you got David Robinson, and I couldn't.
Yeah, so I've got 3 of the 5 championship Sports Illustrated covers. I need to procure the 2014 cover. I've got the, what's missing is the 2005. I have it. I just haven't gotten it framed. And then I need to get the 2014.
Was that the Cavs or the Pistons? 05. That was Pistons, wasn't it?
05 was the Pistons. Yes,
Yep.
That was Big Shot Bob
Yep.
draining that 3. Ginobili should have been Finals MVP, but Timmy will take it, But yeah, those were that was a classic 7-game series. That was phenomenal.
Dude, so good. Diehard Spurs fan. The GM of the Spurs, R.C. Buford, he was my old AAU basketball coach. So lived in San Antonio for a few years, and obviously loved the Spurs living there, and moved up to the South Lake area in 2002. Growing up here, being a Spurs fan in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I was not the most popular person, but hey, we have more rings, so it's okay.
That's right. We got to get one for the other hand now. So Wimby's going to take us there. But anyway, we could talk about that. We could do a whole episode on Spurs.
We could do a whole episode on Spurs.
But let's get focused back on mortgage. So how did you get into this business? It's not something that a lot of people intentionally get into. And so I'm always really interested to hear like the journey of arriving into mortgage.
Yeah, man, I had no idea about the mortgage industry. No clue about it. My wife is a title attorney. She's the in-house counsel for Old Republic Title, and she takes care of the San Antonio division and the Dallas-Fort Worth division. A lot of their problem files end up on her desk for her stamp of approval. And I was doing financial planning, financial advising work for municipal entities, cities, counties, school districts, helping them with budgeting and bond planning. And I was the guy that was getting up in front of the constituents and letting them know that their tax rate was about to go up and they were going to have to pay more in taxes. So I was not the most popular guy in town. I was driving about 50 to 60,000 miles a year in a car, and my wife and I were trying to start a family, and she was like, hey, you've got to figure something else out. Like, you can't be gone like this. I don't want a husband that's not present. And I was like, I agree. And she knew about my passion for finance. She knew about how much I loved looking at real estate just on Zillow or whatever. And she encouraged me to go look at becoming an originator. And I did. I took a deep dive into it. I went and got licensed before I was ever with a company, met with some loan officers in the San Antonio area that were high producers down there to get a feeling of what is this business and where can you go? I had no clue what to expect. And so, man, I asked questions about everything. What do you do on a day-to-day basis? Who are you calling? Who are you trying to network with? How much money can you make? I had no idea what possibilities were with this business. And once I got into it in 2017, man, quickly fell in love with it, and have been originating ever since.
That's great. So you made a really awesome point about going out and finding the top producers in your market and asking them questions. So would you mind just walking us through that process? Because I can't recall how many years back that was, but how did you know who they were? How did you find them? Were they receptive to the call? Like, help us understand a little bit more about what that was like.
They thought it was super weird that I was calling, right? Some of them. They were like, who are you? Like, you don't need a loan. Why are you calling me? What do you need? So what I did is I asked my wife and asked some of the escrow officers, right? Who were the top originators that they worked with or that, were in the marketplace. Once I found out that info, I just picked up the phone and called, and rarely did I get a phone call back. It was like 2016, 2017, the latter part of 16, early part of 17. And man, there was one day I just picked up the phone. I called Wes Cleckley. Yeah, I don't know if anybody up here knows Wes, but Wes was a phenomenal originator down in the San Antonio area. I think he's maybe out of origination now. I think he's running a company. Wonderful human being. I love the guy to death. But I called him like 4 or 5 times in one day. And all of a sudden, I got him on the last one. And he was like, dude, you've called up here so much. Like, what do you want? And I was like, you don't know me. I don't know you. I know you're a great originator. My wife works for Old Republic Title. I'm thinking about becoming a loan officer. Here's my background. I'm coming to your office next week. What day? And he was like, Thursday, whatever. And so, man, I just showed up to his office, had a probably hour and a half, 2-hour meeting with him, and just got to pick his brain. Like, to me, I wanted to know what I was getting into. My wife was, we were trying to have a kid and trying to have a family at that time. We weren't pregnant yet, but quickly we became pregnant. I say we, she became pregnant. And man, I really needed to turn it on. I went from making good income to, lowering my income by coming into the mortgage industry by about 2/3. And so for me, that kind of sped up my how much I worked. Like, this business is a grind. You kind of eat what you kill, right? And to me, that's something that I've always loved. I didn't want to be capped anywhere. And I love the ability that we have as originators to go out, and as much time and effort and energy you put into the business, you can make as much as you want to or make as little as you want to. I just found that to be super attractive. And so for me, man, it was all about going into those offices, getting to connect with some of those top originators down in that area and kind of pick their brain about what they did to build their business to 100, 120 million. Because that's where I want to go. I'm not there yet, but I'm going to be.
That's fantastic, man. I love that story. I hadn't heard that story before, so that's really cool. So at what point did you know that you were starting to get good at this job?
I think pretty early on, I would say probably within year one, I had known that I had some skills. I've always been a big connector. Like, connecting with people is probably one of my unique abilities, one of my superpowers, if you will. I can connect with people pretty quickly and earn their trust. And so for me, man, I would say probably within year one, I think we only did probably 6 million. But we learned a lot in that year, and then the next year we had a jump. We went from 6 to 19 pretty quickly, and I felt like, okay, there's something to this. Like, I can do this business, and I've got the right connections. Being in the financial planning space, right? I can talk that language with financial planners. I can really help give guidance and advice on how should we really structure your debt. And if you think, when I was doing the municipal advising, right, I was structuring bonds for people, so it was really structuring debt, just larger numbers, 20, 30, 40 million versus a $400,000 loan amount. So what we were doing was pretty similar as far as the interest rate game went, and structuring the debt. It was pretty similar to what we did here. I didn't realize all of the marketing and all of the sales skills that we would need in this position versus the other position, right? When we work with other people, it's because they needed a new school built or they needed a new football stadium, so it wasn't as frequent. But here, man, as long as you take care of people, you're going to earn their business loan after loan after loan. And that's how I got into it. That just, put my head down, put the foot on the gas pedal and didn't let up. And still not letting up. Like I'm still pushing to grow each and every year. And thankfully, I'm one of probably the few that can say over the last couple of years that we've continued to do that.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I mean, just accomplishing 6 million in year one. Yeah, I mean, I'd say you probably had something figured out. That's a rare feat in this business, and you see a lot of people struggle to get to that point, and to see growth year over year, that's very admirable. So, I mentioned earlier this connection that you keep with customers and how you maintain, the database management, which comes up a lot in this industry. Sales is really, you even made the comment, you eat what you kill. And in this business, you find a lot of hunter mentality where it's just on to the next. But there's these rare loan officers like yourself that really continue to go back to the well, so to speak, and keep those relationships alive with the people that know, like, and trust them. And as a result, generate more business from that. And it starts to really build kind of a loan officer nirvana of sorts where, while sales and marketing is still a part of it, you can grow a lot faster when you're doing that. So anyway, before I say everything, help us, walk us through that decision to really keep that relationship and where that sort of clicked for you. And then just some of the things that you're doing to make sure that you keep those conversations fresh and that you're staying in front of those customers or clients and really maintaining that, so that you're always top of mind.
Yeah, I think that this business is all about connection. It's all about connection. And to me, I look for avenues and ways in which I can connect with previous clients. I don't like using the word past clients because they are clients, right? Like you don't hear a financial planner go out and say my past client, like it's their client. And so for us, just because we close their loan doesn't mean that they don't need my services, my knowledge, my guidance and advice, not just for mortgage, but talking to them about estate planning, talking to them about life insurance, talking to them about working with a financial planner. I'll never forget, probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I met with a couple. Both of them were in education. Love our teachers, love our coaches, our educators, right? They're not in that industry to make money. And when I showed them that they could retire with $2.5, $3 million, their eyes were just mind blown. And it had nothing to do with mortgage. It had everything to do with helping them get on a plan that's going to better their financial future. And so a lot of what I do is based around that. And so we'll do events in the evening. I'll bring on a CPA, have them talk about some tax strategies. I'll bring on a financial planner. I've had a 1031 exchange person come on, doing different things that we can help our families with long after the mortgage was closed. One of my favorite things that we do, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, Merlin's Magic Sleep Suit.
Oh.
Dude, this thing is amazing. I get pictures of people with their babies that look like Michelin men all the time. It's a great sleep suit, but I've got little kids, right? And what I do is I'll kind of scour social media. I'll look for some past clients. I hate that word, past clients. I'll look for some clients that have recently had a baby, and then I send that Merlin's Magic Sleep Suit to them, and I'll put a little like handwritten note, and it essentially just says, hey, I don't know if you're anything like me, but I need sleep to be at my best. Congratulations on the birth of your newborn. Super excited for you guys. This suit right here helped my little ones get really great sleep at night, which helped my wife and I get some sleep as well. I hope it works exactly for you.
That's great.
Dude, we're connecting with people at that point, right? We're not trying to sell anybody. I'm not sending anything mortgage related. It's not branded with any of my brand. But when they get that, they put it on their child, they get to sleep better, and then they send me a picture of their baby in the suit like, Justin, this is amazing. I love this. Oh my goodness, this is exactly what we needed. We're actually getting rest now. And when you think about it, when they think about mortgage, right? Or they've got a friend or a family member that's looking at making a purchase or needs to refi their home, who do you think they're thinking of? And it's all because we sent that one gentle gift, one little touch that had nothing to do with mortgage, but had everything to do with me taking care of them. And if we can do that day in and day out, man, business will grow. I've always thought if you can have 200, 300, 400 little foot soldiers out there that refer you one person a year, what does that do for your business? And it's not even realtor related. It's foot soldiers of clients that you've taken care of, that have been through your process, that have experienced what you and your team do. If you can build that reputation, you're going to see your business grow year after year.
No, I love that. Every it has to be intentional with every client at every step of the way, right? You got to start now, and as fund the next transaction, continue those relationships beyond that. Because over a few years, regardless of how much you're producing, even if you're funding 20 loans in your first year, 30 in your second, well, that's 50 foot soldiers, right? And so it starts to add up over time. I think that's a great comment that you just made. I did want to take one step back because you mentioned um, the different people that you were bringing in to do presentations and things like that. Can you explain that a little bit more? And how are you marketing that to your clients? Is it done live or on like in person or over a webinar, and how are you cultivating those guests?
Yep. So great question. Right now, what we've been doing is having them on Zoom. I actually do want to get away from that. I do want to bring that into more of an in-person deal. I just got back from Costa Rica, had a great retreat down there. My coach, Tim Brahim, fantastic originator, fantastic human being. I love this guy to death. That's somebody that you need to get on your podcast for sure, because this guy, he's a machine. But he encouraged me to kind of do these events in person and maybe do it quarterly. We started this probably in, I think it was June or July. We had our first one, and it was just a budgeting workshop. We had gotten a lot of questions about, how do we budget? We don't know what to do. We don't know how to do it. And so I was like, well, let's create a budgeting workshop. Sent out an email to the entire data. And we had probably, 15 people in attendance. But the key part was I got 35, 40 emails back from people saying, hey, we can't make this. I wish we could. Is it going to be recorded? Would love to watch this. Please keep us on this email, right? And so although they weren't in attendance, they were seeing my name in front of them. It was something of value that they wanted to learn about. They just weren't able to make it. So guess what? We'll do another budgeting workshop another day, and that's okay.
So is database management a part of your daily regimen, or is it weekly, or how often are you doing that?
It's more weekly than anything, and this is an area that I need to get better at. I would like to make it to where it's a daily thing where I'm picking up the phone and I'm actually connecting with 3, 4, 5 clients that I haven't spoken to in a little bit and just seeing what's going on in their world. I'll tell you, one of the big things that we've done in our business is not just look at it as here's a rate, here's a payment, here's your cash to close, right? We want to do way more for the families that we get to work with. And so we're asking them questions about, do you have an estate plan? Do you have a will? Do you have a trust? Do you have life insurance? Are you working with a financial planner? Because at the end of the day, if we can become the most valuable person in their life in terms of finance and real estate, we're not just a mortgage professional that's slinging debt anymore, right? And so what we've really tried to hone in on and focus on is building that family office around our clients. Because a lot of people that make $75,000, $85,000, right? They make good money, but they're probably not working with a financial planner because they feel, for whatever reason, like they don't need one, or they can't afford one, or they don't have enough money to be able to work with one. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. And so I have the ability as an originator, because of everything that we see, to look at them and say, hey, you have $75,000 in a savings account with Bank of America that's earning less than 1% interest. Let's move that into this account and let's earn you some more interest. Or let's keep your 3 to 6 months reserves here and let's move the rest with a financial planner who's going to be able to grow that money at 8, 9, 10%. Now the shift isn't on just mortgage. It's like, oh crap, what else does Justin know that I don't, right? And then when we can be the piece that connects them to those other pieces and helps them get to their financial goals, the conversation is not mortgage anymore. The conversation is, what do you need? How can we be of help for you? Where do we need to connect you next?
Right. So I want the listeners to pay attention to that, because essentially what you're building out is a network that you can offer to your clients, which means gaining new partnerships and meeting other people in other industries and really starting to expand your personal network so that it can serve the client in a holistic way. And I think that's just a brilliant strategy because A, it keeps you accountable to the client, right? Now that if you're going to ask the questions, you need to be able to have something to offer if you're going to ask the question. So now there's an accountability to yourself to build that network, and that also in turn can be a great referral source for you in the future. Now you've got another business relationship working, and I just think that's really smart.
Thank you, man. It's been fun. That all kind of started, man. We had a client that saved for a couple years to buy a home, and husband was the only income earner. And I got a phone call from the wife one day about a year after they bought the house, and she called and said, "Hey, Justin, I need to sell the house." And it's like, "Well, what happened? Like, we just bought this house a year ago." And she's like, "Well, my husband passed away," and that like rocked my core. And I was just thinking, Connor, you've got life insurance. I know you've got the little kids, probably the life insurance is going to be able to cover the mortgage for you, be able to put a little bit back into the college savings. We don't really need to sell the house. And her response is what kind of lit me up. It was, we don't have life insurance, or he didn't have life insurance. And when I heard that, it just kind of shifted the way I thought about this business and the way that it should be done. We have the ability as originators to change the lives of the families that we work with by asking the appropriate questions. And it doesn't matter how many people I've talked to, everybody has always said the same thing, that wasn't your fault. But had I asked the deeper questions, the more meaningful questions to impact that family, that could have been prevented, and I didn't do it. And so my commitment is I'm never going to let that happen again. We're going to make sure the families that we get to serve not only are taken care of on the mortgage side of things, but they're taken care of well after the mortgage, because if I don't do it, who is? And I'm going to take that responsibility and shoulder that myself along with my team to make sure that client has everything that they need to be successful in life.
So, how did you arrive at knowing which questions to ask? And was that something that was coached to you? Is that a light bulb moment where you said, "Hey, I really want to make sure," and just wrote them all down, or kind of walk me through that?
So I was at a previous company, and I got tired of getting that same question, "Hey Justin, why you versus anybody else?" And if you're an originator out there, I'm sure you've given this answer before, but we communicate well, we close on time, and we have great interest rates, right? Connor, you say it, every loan officer in America says it. And so there's no differentiator. And I remember being on LinkedIn one night, and I saw a video. Ryan Grant is one of the owners of our company, Neo. And I saw a video that I really connected with and really resonated with. And it was talking about, hey, the client that makes 75 grand, right? Like, you as an originator can change that person's life if you do this, this, and this. And I was like, holy cow. I was in the middle of kind of interviewing companies and figuring out where I wanted to go. I saw that video, and thankfully I did. I shot Ryan a DM right then, right? Like, I'm not one that's afraid to pick up the phone or call or reach out to somebody.
Right?
Hey, I love this video. I really resonate with this. I want to pick your brain and learn more about what y'all are doing. And when I got to Neo, that's when everything started to change. I learned what it meant to be an actual valuable LO rather than just a debt dealer. And to me, that's why my business has done what it's done over the last few years, is because we're asking the appropriate questions. People see the value in what we're doing. We're not really getting rate shopped all that much. Every now and then you have the engineer or whoever it is that does, but majority of the time, with what we're doing and how we take care of people long after the closing, there's not very many that are doing that. And so for me, it's been a game changer for our businesses. I saw that video, reached out to Ryan, went out to California, loved what they were doing. And I was like, I took my wife with me. And my wife and I, after we had our Neo day, we got back to the hotel and she was like, "You're working for that company." And I was like, "I know. I agree."
Yeah, that's great. So you made a comment about Tim Brahim and coaching.
Yeah.
And when did you get into the coaching community? How has that changed things for you? I know it's not always an option for everyone today, but how could somebody get involved in that?
Man, if you're not able to pay for a coach, I would encourage you to save to be able to pay for a coach. Every great athlete, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, you name them, they all had coaches. Strength coaches, eating coaches, right? Like, they've got coaches in every facet of their life. I think I saw something the other day that, like, LeBron James spends $1 million on taking care of his body a year. Granted, $1 million is a lot of money. A lot of people in the origination business don't have $1 million to spend. Totally get that. I'm one of them. But you have to be able to reinvest back into yourself. You're running a business. whether you know it or not, even if you're not managing your own P&L, you are running a business. And so as a business owner, when you get monies in, you have to put some of those monies back into the business. And for me, I was lucky. Right when I started reaching out to Wes Cleckley and those people in San Antonio to get on their radar to figure out what they were doing, one of the common themes I heard was coaching. They had coaches that kept them accountable, that helped them. And for me, I got into it right away. Like, didn't put it against the P&L, put it on a credit card, paid it off as often as I could. And it was a struggle early on, right? It was. But it's also one of those things that's helped me get to where I'm at today. And there's a ton of coaches that are out there that are great. Tim is phenomenal. I love him to death. Amir Syed, Justin Padron, you know those guys. Wonderful coaches, great human beings. The core training, I was in the core for a while. I didn't go into that level 3 because that was a very steep expense early on I wasn't comfortable with. But what I did in those coaching things is I learned. And man, from 7:30 to 11 o'clock at night, I was studying because most of the people I was competing against weren't willing to do that. And so if I could use that time when my kids were asleep, my wife was doing something different, and I could lock in and spend those hours. It's kind of that Kobe Bryant mentality. And Connor, you and I have talked about this before, but my light went off. Sorry. It's kind of that Kobe Bryant mentality of, I don't know if you've heard this story, but Chris Bosh, they were on the USA team, and Chris Bosh wanted to be the first one down into the gym. So he got up at 4 o'clock in the morning. He went downstairs, was getting ready to get some coffee and some breakfast, and Kobe was there, and Kobe already had ice packs on his knees and is already drenched in sweat, right? And Chris Bosh is sitting there thinking, dude, this guy just got out of the NBA finals and I was going to beat him down here. But not only did he beat me down here, he's already gotten a workout done. And for me, it's that same mentality of I've got to be willing to do things that other people in our industry are not willing to do. And if I can do that, or when I can do that, it's going to help me explode and just continue to grow and get further and further ahead to a point where they're not even going to have an opportunity to catch me.
Yeah, oh, I love that. It's, when things are hard, you have two ways of looking at it. You can go, man, it's really hard to throw up your hands and just say, I'm going to quit. Or you can look at it and go, I'm glad it's hard because, less people are going to do it. And if I stick with this through law of attrition, I'm going to end up, way further ahead than everyone else, just what you said. And I think that's a really important point to make. And to address the budgetary side of it, as you're saving, what's really beneficial about this industry is so many of the coaches that are out there produce so much content for free that you can really get. You can get a lot of the coaching just by following along. Dave Savage, Amir and Growth Only Coaching, Dustin Owen and T-Lop, it's all out there in bite sizes. And then, when you can invest, you can really get into the accountability side of it and working with someone one-on-one and starting to get more of that personal touch. But, the concepts and ideas are available to any average, anybody. And so
Yeah. Man,
it's just a matter of using the resources.
One of my favorite things to watch was Dave Savage and Scriptapalooza. He had every big time performer on there and it was free. You could go to YouTube and watch the video for free. So if you're struggling with scripting, you're struggling with rate objection, you're struggling with whatever it is, reaching out to realtors and not knowing how to handle their objections, go on and watch the video. They're 4 hours long, 5 hours long, however long, right? And one of the things that I do, this is probably going to sound weird to some people, but I'm a big believer in visualization. I believe that the mind doesn't know a difference between a mental rep and a physical rep. And so when you're watching these videos, don't be afraid to pause it, write it out how you would say it, practice it in front of the mirror, and become proficient at it, right? You're going to fumble, and that's okay. Just don't keep going, right? Continuing to work and get better and improve day in and day out. And at some point it's going to click and it's going to feel comfortable and you'll be able to, script and be better. That's what you have to do. If you don't want to be better, then you're in the wrong industry because this industry is very fast paced. And if you're not continuing to get better, you're going to get passed.
Yeah. I read this was something that I use myself so that I get practice, but I don't look weird. So I read in a book, it's called Cold Calling Sucks, and that's why it works. You put in your ear pods, you take out your phone, and you go for a walk. So it looks like you're talking on the phone, but you're just practicing your script, right? So just repeat it over and over again until,
Yeah.
until it becomes second nature to you. And, getting those reps in, they make a huge difference to where when it's live and you're in front of somebody, you've already said it 1,000 times. So you know exactly what to say and it comes out natural and just, right off the tongue. So yeah, that's a great tip. All right, man. So let's get into kind of the lightning round. I think everything you shared was phenomenal stuff. I hope the listeners were taking notes, and we'll go back and re-listen to this because I think there was
Yeah.
a lot of really good gems in there. But I prepped you for these, so we'll see what you came up with. But I always like to add some fun questions at the end of these episodes, so people get a chance to get to know a little bit more about you. And it's just we like to keep it fun here at the Lowdown. So, first one, what is a favorite quote from a movie or a TV show or a song or something that really, stands out to you?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Is this more from like a business concept or just like everyday life?
Have fun with it, man. Yeah, I mean, this is the one that most people have the most challenge with anyway.
Man, I would say so. This one always fires me up. Remember the Titans, and they're playing. I can't remember who they're playing, but Coach Yost, he walks into the huddle, right? He's talking to this defense, and essentially just is like, make sure that they remember the day that they played the Titans. And I can hear that, still get chills down my arms when I hear that because it fires me up, man. Like, I want to make sure people remember the day that we got to speak and the way that their life was changed because of that.
It's awesome, man. I love that. All right, and that's a great movie.
Great movie.
What is a hidden talent of yours?
I can juggle.
Okay.
I can juggle pretty well. Can't do like a ton of tricks, but I can sit there and juggle whatever. So that's probably a unique talent that most people don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So is it just the juggling balls? Do you do three, four? Like, can you do a lot or how's
No, not that gifted. All right, so
okay.
way to crap on my parade here, but no, I can do three, can't do four. Not as talented. Dan Habib is a buddy, and Dan Habib can do four. I got to see that in Costa Rica, but
Cool.
I'm not as skilled as Dan to be able to do four right now.
That's awesome, man. I can just throw one or two. So okay, if you weren't a loan officer, what would be kind of like the dream career?
Man, I love football. If I could, right, and money was no object or no issue, I would go be a high school football coach, and I would love to coach linebackers or be a defensive coordinator. I don't want to run the show as a head coach, but kind of just be on the defensive side of the football in any capacity. That's something that I would do for sure. I absolutely love high school, college, NFL football, man. If it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, even Mondays now. Mondays have been around for a while, but man, I'm always watching a football game or doing something with football related.
So did you
I did, yeah. Yeah, I played Mike linebacker at Carroll. Went to University of North Texas and SMU and played linebacker there, and then actually ended up in college playing baseball at Texas Wesleyan University, and that's how I met my wife. So sports has been a big part of my life since I was a little kid, and grew up with an athletic family. Both my brothers played Division I football. My older brother played offensive line and tight end at University of Arizona, and then my little brother was probably the best athlete out of all of us. Kyle, he was a quarterback at SMU and was the one that took him to their first bowl game since the death penalty.
very cool, man. That's awesome. So what is something that you've always like a skill that you've always wanted to learn how to do?
Man, I just got back from that retreat in Costa Rica. I know I just told you that, but to me, I want to learn how to speak Spanish and I want to be fluent in it. Don't know why, but that's something I've always wanted to learn how to do. And for me, for 2025, that's going to be a goal of mine is to start working on learning how to speak Spanish.
Very cool. You know, bust out like the Rosetta Stone
Yeah,
and just
well, I
get
don't know what
into
the best one is. So if any listeners have any tips or anything, shoot me a DM or whatever. I'd love to figure out what's kind of the best practice there to learn how to speak it fluently.
awesome. Yeah. And then final question. What is something from your childhood that you wish would just make a comeback?
Ooh, life was a little bit more simple when we didn't have these things. To me, I think that's probably the biggest thing. Like I've seen it in life where my kids will be talking to me and I'm distracted because I'm on that thing. And my oldest will say, Justin. I'm like, oh crap. my bad, Walker. Let me put my phone down. So that's something I'm really working on being intentional with. My wife, Erin, actually just started this initiative in Southlake. It's called Wait Until 8th. And it's encouraging parents that don't want their kids to have cell phones to kind of band together and knowing that you're not the only one that doesn't want your child to have a cell phone. And the goal is to have the child wait until after 8th grade to get a cell phone. There's been numerous studies on this. I'm not going to get into the weeds on this, but essentially what it is it's when the child comes home and says, hey, Connor, I'm the only one at school that doesn't have a cell phone. You can pull out this list and say, that's actually not true, son or daughter. Here's 75, here's 105, here's 200 people who have banded together to not give their child a cell phone until after 8th grade. So you're not the only one, and I know you're not the only one.
That's great. Is there a place that a listener who might be interested in, looking into that, could they get more information on that?
Yeah, if it's by community, that's another thing that's unique and pretty cool about it is it's by community. So my wife started the one that's here in Southlake. I know Trophy Club has one, Byron Nelson, that whole school district, right? I don't know that there's one in Grapevine yet, but if anybody wants more information on that, go to Instagram and go to, I think it's Wait Until 8th, Southlake, something along those lines. The organization, I believe, originated out of the Austin area. My wife has been following it for a little while, and she came to me about 3 months ago and was like, hey, I think I want to do this. And I was like, I love the idea. I think you absolutely should. And I'm super proud of Erin and everything that she's poured time and energy into that to get it off the ground. But it's really starting to run, and super grateful for her commitment to it because it's not easy. I know how easy it is to give a tablet or a phone to a child. And if you're one of those parents that does, like, trust me, there's no judgment. Like, we're not judging on any of that. We know that is helpful in some cases. But big picture, I don't know that's the best thing for the kiddo. And my wife and I, the way, what we believe is that it's not. And our intention is to make sure that our kids get to have that childhood. They're not on social media. They're not running around inside the house and just addicted to their phone and tablet and wanting to watch TV all day long. Like, we want our kids outside. And so for us to answer that question, it's probably a little bit of a controversial topic. I recognize that. Have empathy for that and sympathize with that. But for my family, that's what we're going to decide to decide.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. Like back in the 80s, early 90s, those were the days, riding bikes around the neighborhood, just ditching them in the yard, running around, going to the pool, it was just like a different time.
Baseball and getting the little scuffs on your knees and your elbows because you fell on the asphalt, shooting hoops, throwing balls with your buddies. Like, man, that's what I wish we could go back to is kind of the days where we didn't really have all the social media stuff and all the comparison stuff. Like, I'm guilty of this. I've seen people on social media that post things. I'm like, dang, like, what am I doing? Right. And like, that's so unhealthy. And I don't want my 10-year-old, my 11-year-old, my 12-year-old, when they get to those ages to have that same feeling. Because I know as I'm 36 now, that, as a 30-plus-year-old, like, it's easy for me to fall victim to that. I know it's going to happen to my kiddos, and I don't want that for them. So, yeah, tough question, probably a tougher answer.
It's all good, man. Well,
we're in line there.
I'll make sure to add a resource in the show notes for anybody who wants to learn more about it. Man, yeah. Justin, I really appreciate the conversation today and for having you on The Lowdown, and just appreciate you, and best of luck to you in the future.
Appreciate you, Connor. Thanks for having me, man. Love what you're doing. The newsletter, The Lowdown, was amazing, and glad you got encouraged to take this to a podcast format. So I'm grateful for you, man, and what you do for our industry. I've told you this time and time again, we need to shift the way that we view recruiters, but recruiters also need to focus on the way that you do business. You do it the right way. You connect with people. And man, you're an awesome person to know, and I'm grateful for my friendship with you. And go Spurs.
Go Spurs. All right, man. Thanks.